Yeah. Okay, we'll get a great start. So, Hunt and Lawler put together this presentation. We had a couple board meetings since we opened bids, and we were asked to kind of summarize everything and come back and present a plan on how to move forward. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So, first of all, just a recap of where we are with the bid results. You can see the first line there, the base bid cost, including all elements. Some items were to be purchased directly through OTS contracts or other mechanisms. That came up to $54,375,000. Now, as we all know, the low general contractor pulled out of the bid. And feedback we got from them in their D-scope was that they were short in their bid $1.7 million is what their claim. Okay, and the reason they pulled the bid. So we added that up here. We're trying to take, just a little background, we're trying to take into account all the factors and the results from the bidding that happened before as we consider how to move forward. So that's one of those factors. Then there were several alternates here. You see they're obviously skipping some, but these were the ones from feedback from the school district, the board, and administration that was desired to move forward with in any project. So we included those costs into this. The alternate total is just over $1 million. So when we add that GC underbid and the alternate total, that brings the total to $57 million. Is what's requested to build what we've been talking about. Okay? So, and just bear with me, I'm going to walk us through this whole thing. So, then as we move forward with that, our original budget for that work was at $47 million. Okay, that shows a $9.5 million overage. And how are we going to accommodate that moving forward? That's the $10 million question, right? So, we did before we get there, how did that occur? Right? And these are some bullet points of a lot of feedback we received and also just observation we've had as a professional team, Paul Bolivar, and the school district. And these are many of those bullet points. There was a delay by the state in reviewing the project, which delayed getting it out to bid. That definitely had a factor. The SCD review and development of the drawings between the time it was submitted to the time it went out to bid, there was some further development and added items to the document between the time it was estimated and the time we actually went to bid.
We ask questions as you go along.
Absolutely.
You're in the room, says the question.
Yeah.
So how much was the add-on for SCD?
Well,
in terms of
we
cost,
put it all together at about $500,000 for all factors. Order requests, SCD, added items, and things that were just in that time period of further development of the documents. So SCD's portion of it, I would have to say is at least 25% of that. The things that they, requested that we do.
Yeah, safety features or
largely, and difference of interpretation. One of the factors that we always struggle with dealing with older buildings is your building was built under a different code. Today's code has been updated how many times? 20 times since this building was built. So there's new requirements that we have to accommodate. Some of those new requirements are impossible in an existing structure. And that's recognized and understood. So you're grandfathered in of some of those items. Some items you're not. Okay? So, and some items are clearly understood what you're grandfathered in, and some are up for interpretation. So this SED review period kind of brings up that interpretation, and there is back and forth. There were things that they requested that we pushed back a little bit and showed why we did it the way we did it, and they became agreeable to. There were some other things they were not agreeable to, and their interpretation of the current code and how it affects your older building needed to be modified. An example of that, one of the most costly examples was we had an existing stairway that exited into a courtyard. Well, the courtyard wasn't there before. It was created by the cafeteria addition, library addition, sorry. And you know the stairway needed to exit directly outside or within 50 feet of another exterior exit. And we had that exiting outside and within 50 feet of a rated horizontal exit. They wouldn't accept it. They wanted that stairway to go directly out. So we had to cut a new hallway through an existing classroom, new doors, vestibule doors, mechanical systems, sidewalks, all that had to be added. And we reworked the plans, you didn't lose a classroom and everything. But those are some of those back and forths that are naturally going to occur during that time. But as we're identifying all factors, that was a factor. Not a huge factor, but it was one. The next bullet is bidding in March and April instead of the originally planned bidding in January, February. Okay, that we believe had a major factor because of the next bullet also. There was an extreme quantity of projects out to bid this last year. Constantly we're hearing from some contractors and contractors that it's a heavier bid environment than they've ever seen. Okay? And, it just kept being realized more and more as time went on. And you get into, April timeframe, that became a late time to bid a project. Contractors were busy. Some contractors were booked. They weren't providing prices. So you can imagine a prime bidder is usually seeing 3 or 4 subcontracting bids and supplier bids. They were getting maybe one, maybe none. They have to take some liberties with the prices. A lot of this came from de-scoping that the whole team participated in from bidders that did bid your project. Limited available bidders. That also led to, we had coverage on all the bids, but very limited. Many of the bid packages only had one bidder. That doesn't promote competition. Did you receive your low bid? You don't believe you did. When a bidder comes, they're the only bidder. They're not going to sharpen the concept. That's the reality. And we believe that happened throughout many of the bid packages. Uncertainty in the trade market, we kept hearing that, it's such a volatile time right now in the building construction industry with steel and just different import items that affect other products, and we were seeing escalation on elements way beyond what could have been expected. Limited workers, some bidders were saying we could bid the project, we just don't have anybody to manage the project. So they pulled back and didn't provide price. Their estimating staff could do it, but if they got the job, they didn't have anybody to manage the job. So we were hearing that kind of thing. Short bid period, that was something that surprised us a little bit, but being late to the getting the bids out, with all the other factors, we didn't want to have a lengthy bid period because that just needed that much labor. We used a normal 4-week bid period. Sometimes with a smaller job, it'd be shorter. Sometimes with a larger job, it'd go longer. 3 weeks for shorter or a smaller project, maybe 5 weeks for a larger project. Fewer larger project. Ideally, it would have been better to have a longer bid period. But in the end, when we debated as a whole team whether to delay the bid opening or not, it was determined it wasn't going to gain us any bidders. They put out feelers all over it to try to determine if we could get more bidders by delaying, and we weren't hearing it those days. If they had other projects to bid, we're going to have to use. So we're taking account all of these. You'll see later on how we move forward. Maybe we will be addressing all these. Precast supplier, we know we talked about the precast, and the GC used that as part of the reason to pull their bid. That there was issues with the number they provided and see if they had time to really got that number and understand who it is. And that was one that was highlighted. There was other similar stories. Anything else you want to talk about on this slide? What are we doing? One of the elements we're doing is looking at value engineering items. Value engineering is essentially looking at the project, how can we modify the specifications or how things are being built and provided to reduce costs, but still keep the scope of work intact. And that was our goal here. Chad's going to walk us through these items.
So this isn't all inclusive. I'll give you an example of one that's not included out here because it's pretty minor and has zero impact on anyone. At one of the roofs where we have a metal roof, you can put those roofs on two types of sleepers. You can put it on a wood walking sleeper system, or you can put it on what's called a hat channel, which is kind of like a little metal channel furring strip. One of the feedbacks we got from the roofing contractor was ours was detailed with wood sleepers. We would save some pennies on the dollar if we changed that to a metal sleeper system instead of wood. So we've taken those things into account, but I didn't want to necessarily get into the weeds. We have a complete all-inclusive list that's easy to share. These are some of the big ones. I've kind of broken them up by building, mechanical systems, and then site. So we'll cover the building first. The first one there is reducing the roofs that are in this project to be a 20-year warranty. I think that made sense to us as a team because one of the things back when we first started planning this project, we talked about how many roofs need to be done throughout the district, how much work needs to be done on the roofs. And a lot of times districts take all of that work on because they have a pool of money that enables them to do that, but they don't think about what happens in 20, 25, 30 years when you've got to do all those roofs again. So what we were tasked with originally was kind of staggering some of the roofs so that you had them expiring at different times so that you didn't burden the district with a lot of replacement 30 years from now. We've already replaced 3 portions of the roofs at the high school over the last 2 years, and those 3 portions are under a 30-year warranty. So, over the south wing, we did over where the current English wing is, we did that section of roof. We did some roof over where the art rooms are right now on the first floor. It was formerly social studies on the second floor, so we did a roof there. And then we did the roof over the north wing locker room. So the roofs there are 30 years, the ones that we're doing in this project will be 20 years. And there's savings there. You're not just getting a lower warranty, there's a savings in kind of how the details of that roof works. So it seemed like a twofold benefit. You still get aid on roof every 15 years. So you're not that, this used to be the standard we would put in and we would build a project. So it seemed like an obvious place. The next one is another roof item. We had metal standing seam roofs on 3 locations. The library roof was all metal standing seam roof. The raised portion of roof at the cafeteria, as well as the stadium outbuilding, were all metal roofs. We've changed those to a TPO roof. It's a hybrid PVC roof with rubber roof. And what you can do with that is same warranty that you can get out of the rest of the roofs. And for an aesthetic look in those locations, we can apply what's called a rib to that roof. So from the distances that you'll see from the ground to these roofs, they will appear aesthetically very similar to a standing seam roof. You can use color the same way that you would use on a standing seam roof, and you can apply those ribs to give it that look of a metal roof. So really, in our opinion, no detriment at all to the design of the project, functionality of the project, but there is a cost savings associated with it, so it seems like a good place to save some money. We've evaluated wood ceilings. Wood ceilings versus the traditional ceiling are a little more expensive. They look nicer. They have a warmer feel. Using wood inside the space has a warmer feel than a traditional institutional material. But obviously that feel comes with a cost. So what we did as a team is we did not cut them entirely, right? What we did is we went back to the design and we evaluated where we could reduce the use of it and not necessarily completely impact it. So an example of that is at the new main entrance. The entire corridor leading into the building was all this nice wood ceiling. So visitors coming into the building, they walk into this nice entry piece. Originally we had that ceiling go from the corridor kind of into the adjacent nurses suite and the guidance suite, just to make that feel of like follow the ceiling kind of thing. But we've deleted that. You know, we did not take it into the office spaces, we turned that into a traditional ceiling. So you still get that nice warm feeling, the wood ceiling in the entrance where all the visitors are, but just that extra piece going into the adjacent spaces is where we found a cost savings. The terrazzo design, we've deleted no terrazzo on the job. So everywhere we were going to use terrazzo, we're continuing to use terrazzo. What we've done is we've simplified it to some extent, I guess is the best way to explain it. Specifically in the new corridor by the library, there were some kind of intricate pieces, shapes in that corridor to kind of break up that long corridor to give it some interest. And we've reduced the shape, we've eliminated the shapes, with still keeping some of the cross corridor patterns, so it still breaks up that long expansive corridor, but it eliminates those, the feedback we got from the contractors was those were a high cost item. The sails over the main entrance at the main office, those were purely aesthetic. Main entrance tends to want to feel vertical so that it draws attention to itself, kind of stands apart from the rest of the building, so that you can see that it's a main entrance. And this is what those, we call them sails, but they were kind of metal structures that we were going to install on top of the old library, the new main office space. And it was really just going to give verticality to that entrance. It wasn't hiding anything, it wasn't hiding any mechanical units. So, you know, in the interest of money, it was an easy savings because we feel like the design of that space with the plaza, with the big wall that's there, that kind of, with the opening, with the void, where the entrance is, we feel like it's still a successful entrance, and it's still going to read as the main entrance with that plaza and everything else. And those were not cheap. Those were a compound curve on steel, so anybody in the industry kind of understands what I mean by that. We were basically taking a piece of steel and not only curving it on a radius, we were curving it on a radius and in elevation. So you end up with this really complex curve in that steel. So it wasn't cheap, it was not a cheap piece of material to fill. The precast, we talked about that a lot. At this point, what we've done, you know, a lot of the feedback we got on the precast was the size of the precast and the complication associated with those sizes, compounded with the limited use of the material. And that I think is important to understand, is it wasn't that we were necessarily designing, I wouldn't even say necessarily, we were not designing a unique construction building material for this job. It's used all the time. In fact, I've got information that this is used, in fact, in New York City, where it's more difficult to build construction, they're actually seeing a trend going to this away from traditional masonry built buildings. It goes up faster, so you have less labor costs. The problem we had here is the complication of not using enough of it. There is a cost savings that comes with the scale. So by only having, I think, 10 or 12 panels on this job, we were basically incurring a cost increase because we weren't producing enough of panels. So what we've done is we've eliminated those panels. We haven't changed the design per se, but we've changed the material. So now we're going with standard stone, standard stone material, still durable. That was really important where these locations are at. They're right at main entrances. So we didn't want to use a material that would easily become damaged, like an EFS material, a drive material, or a metal panel. We didn't want to use something because it's going to constantly be in contact with pedestrian traffic. So we wanted to still use a masonry type material, but what we've done is we've gone to a modular system. So basically everything is in smaller units, standard size units, anywhere from 12 inch to 24 inch in length, 12 inches long, and the idea there is going to a traditional construction backup, so masonry walls behind the steel structure with a veneer material very similar to frame. So reducing the complication of that. And then the last one in the building, really the highlight is in that space in the cafeteria where we had the raised roof where we were creating all that natural light to come down into the cafeteria. We got feedback that glass system, we call it a channel glass system, is not a cheap material. Aesthetically, it looks really nice. It creates a glowing effect. But there are materials out there that accomplish the same aesthetic and the same performance, allow the light to come down into that space. And I think at this point we're looking at utilizing glass block instead of the channel questions. I know I'm going through quickly, but feel free to interrupt me whenever you'd like. On the mechanical side, I will say it was much harder to find cost savings on the mechanical side because this really is a pretty efficiently designed and executed mechanical system. I'll also say if you go back and look at the bids on bid day, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, those are contracts that actually came on budget. There were a number of contracts that came exactly where we expected them to be. But with that said, we still wanted to evaluate. We still wanted to look at it and see if there was any way we could save some money. And a couple of things that we've done is the library and cafeteria. Originally, we're going to be on the chiller system, the building-wide cooling system and heating system. But in the interest of piping, because a lot of that required a lot of additional piping to be run throughout the building, what we've done is we've decided to take those two spaces and put them on their own standalone mechanical systems. So we've added air handling units at those locations, and believe it or not, the cost of those mechanical units is still less than the size of the piping, because we were able to actually reduce size of piping and eliminate some piping throughout the course of the project. So the $50,000 I'm spending or $80,000 spending on one of those units was significantly offset. I think this line item actually carried almost a $300,000 savings. So this seems like a pretty easy thing. The only complication here is we've got 2 additional air handling units in the project for maintenance and changing filters. And so from the maintenance side of it, it's a little bit more maintenance, but it is a cost savings. The next line item is reducing piping for cooling. So basically what we've got here is we designed a system that you could run air conditioning in every single space in your building that it's provided to, with that caveat. Every space that has air conditioning, 100%. That's how the project was designed. So you could air condition all your classrooms that have air conditioning provided to them, and the gymnasium, and the auditorium, and the cafeteria. Right? That was kind of the approach. 100% is the way we approach this design. Well, there's a way to reduce the size of piping and make reductions if we're willing to say, okay, if I'm air conditioning my gymnasium, that probably means all of my students are in that gymnasium, and I don't necessarily need to be delivering as much cooling to the classrooms. So you kind of create this diversity model where you're not able to necessarily cool 100% of the building 100% of the time. But what you can do is manage that so that you're cooling the spaces that people are occupying. Because it's unlikely that you would end up with students all in the classrooms plus a full assembly happening in the gymnasium at the same time. This is not an unprecedented design. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is how the formula is even laid out when we get their system. So this is not an unprecedented design. This is not us making cuts and designing and giving course as a system that is not traditional. It is a traditional system. We just took on the challenge of looking at it. What if we did want to be able to cool the entire building? So that's what that next one is. And the last one is pretty simple. We've got a lot of piping associated with the old steam system that does not by code have to come out. So what we're going to do is we've already evaluated to say, okay, obviously we're not going to abandon all the existing piping. And I know that's what that says, but there's going to be existing piping that has to come out because the new can't go in. It's in the way. Right? So we're still going to be doing that, obviously. If we've got to put piping out to be able to accommodate the new, we're going to do that. But if it can be abandoned in place, we're going to leave it in place. And finally, yeah, of course, sorry.
On the reduced piping for cooling the building, etc. You talked about kind of maybe managing cooling differently with this system. Does that create additional work for Mike and his team or others in the district to do that management?
So it's I don't think it's dissimilar to, I've never worked in Mike's position, so it's probably easier for him to answer that. But I think the way systems are designed now, it's no different than you would program, say, if you knew you were going to have an assembly in the auditorium on Thursday night. You probably still have to coordinate with Mike and his crew to say, okay, we need the mechanical system to be up and running at 6 o'clock on Thursday night for the performances happening in the auditorium. That activity would still maintain. What we're talking about is during the normal school day, if you knew you were going to host a pep rally in the gymnasium at 2 o'clock in June, which actually wouldn't happen in June, it'd be in October or whatever, right? If you wanted to have that space cooled at the same time that you're doing your classrooms, there would be more management on Mike's side to handle that, yes. But normal activity after school, this doesn't change anything.
Chad, could you also talk about capacity, that you can expand that capacity, or the fact that the tonnage that you have, the discussion that we had, if you can explain?
Yeah, so what Tom's talking about is basically this is, when we're talking about cooling your building, we're not talking about necessarily the spaces that cool on their own. We're talking about the ones that run off the chillers. So this new chiller, we're basically, what we had designed in the original project was two 150-ton chillers. So basically you had 300, think of it as 300 tons of chiller capacity for this building. And what my engineers have come up with is we could probably back that down to about 250 tons. Well, the advantage that we're gaining there is the maximum that a chiller, I believe the maximum standard size chiller is 250 tons. So what we're realizing here is a savings in the fact that we've only got to buy one of those chillers. Instead of previously we were buying one chiller and the other chiller was by alternate, right? And that was, okay, if we get the one 150-ton chiller, then we know we'll at least be able to do the cafeteria, we'll be able to do the new library, we'll be able to pick up the auditorium and those spaces that are currently cool. Well, now with the ability to buy just the one 250-ton chiller, we've only lost 50 tons of chilling. So what we're really, keep in mind, we're thinking about the next two referendums too. If you don't have, what my engineer will probably kill me for saying, but what you really have is a 250-ton chiller that we're trying to keep in mind. You've still got a pool expansion that's coming. You've still got a STEM classroom addition that you may be putting out at the front that connects the south wing over to the cafeteria. Those are the spaces we're taking into account when we're talking about this reduction of chiller. So today, at the end of this project, without that added square footage, probably isn't really even an issue. We're talking about that future. As far as expansion, this is it, right? Because we're not just talking about taking a chiller and, okay, in 10 years, let's say you decide, I want to go to a 300-ton chiller. Well, the piping isn't there to support it. So you really are saying we're going to be okay with a 250-ton chiller, or we're not going to be okay with a 250-ton chiller. And I think as the team, looking at everything, looking at all of the calculations regarding this, we feel very strongly that 250 tons will take you through that pool expansion and through that STEM expansion. Anything beyond that would really be building a second chiller plant and then having kind of two chiller plants. With that said though, there is a third option that becomes available, which is ice storage. So there's a way to make your chillers work less, to make a 250-ton chiller go further, which is to provide that chiller with already cooled water and make that chiller work less hard, which we've done this in multiple districts. So what you do is you basically say, okay, we need 8 tanks, 6 tanks, whatever it ends up being. And those tanks then take water and freeze it at night when the energy costs are lower. And then that chilled water gets pushed through the system, so it makes that 250-ton chiller more efficient. So it actually can produce more chilled water, right? So there's a few ways that as the years go on, there are ways to expand on that chiller, just not necessarily very easily. Is that covered? Yeah, my one.
Okay, so the second, reduce piping for cooling, the non-trained person is gonna read, there goes the air conditioning in the building, so
It's not that it's gone.
okay, I sort of understood your explanation, but the non-trained technical person, they're gonna read this tomorrow and they're gonna say, uh-oh, so explain.
So what we're really, hopefully, I tried to be really selective, right? There's nothing about eliminate here. There's nothing about delete, right? What we did was we truly just reduced the size of that pipe. And what that means
But
is
it still delivers the same service.
slightly, the caveat to that is, think of it as, I don't know, as a switch. You cannot walk into every room in this building when this is done. You cannot walk into every building and expect them all to be 68 degrees in 45 minutes. right? The building is at 80 degrees, and you turn the air conditioning system on, it's not gonna be able to cool every single space in the building all at one time. It's gonna have to do it in stages, right? So maybe the choice is the classrooms are priority number one. Because if you're in a gymnasium, maybe it's not as important inside that gymnasium. So that's all we're saying is that that you cannot cool every single one of your student-occupied spaces plus the assembly spaces all at the same time at the same speed. Eventually, they'll all cool, right? I mean, I guess think about it in ways as your air conditioner would run better if you pushed 50-degree water through it versus 70-degree water. The 70-degree water is going to eventually cool you down if you're 90 degrees out. It's just going to take longer. And that's really what this is it can deliver that prime temperature of water to all the spaces at the same time, at the same speed.
Chad, I think where Mr. Conklin might be suggesting too, that we can update this slide where it says, it may, instead of saying reduce piping, adjust piping size for cooling, new cooling needs in a building utilizing a diversity design. That's a little different than just that big word, reduce. Does that make sense, Warren?
Us to me.
So what we can do is on our website afterwards, we can adjust that to mean what you're saying, just with different words, if you're okay with that.
Just a clarifying question. I'm recalling, and I might have maybe incorrectly, that the air conditioning was an alternate, the initial, but what you just described in regard to the chillers going from 2 to 1, does that one remain an alternate in terms of how the documents and the bid would go out, or does that one now become part of that core? Okay.
So I think what we have landed on is we have as a team really bantered about this. We actually thought about doing a base bid of only 150 ton, what we were originally going to do, and then an alternate for another 150 ton, right? So basically the same setup as we have today, and then add another alternate that deletes both of those and does a 250 ton chiller. So that way we can kind of get an idea of, okay, you still have that option, but there's still going to be an alternate of some type associated with this. There's still going to be a base bid that says, okay, we need to be able to at least condition these new cafeteria, library spaces. The main office is on its own, so that is its own. So you're still going to have those choices on bid day that says, okay, base bid gives you this much cooling, and then you're going to have a choice of either one, maybe, I think we've got it down to one, but maybe 2 more alternates that then say, okay, if you want to add cooling to these spaces, it's this much more money, and if you want to cool the whole building, it's this much more money. So you'll still have those choices. We're going to still package it to have those choices. The site side probably was maybe one of the easier sides to find some savings, but I guess maybe. So just going through these in the plaza, right. So outside the library, sorry, I had to read that to remind myself. Outside the library, there's a kind of, we call it an outdoor classroom space, right? It was kind of recessed a little bit. It had some stone benches out there, some stonework, nice little outdoor learning space outside the library. A couple of things on that. First of all, we decided to make that as an alternate. So that's going to be a new alternate that was not in the project previously as an alternate. It was a base bid. So we're going to identify that as an alternate now. So if we don't want to take that, we don't have to spend the money on it. We've also reduced the materials out there. So we haven't changed the design, but it still looks like it did in the project in the original bid. But instead of using like stone pavers and stone materials out there, we're just going to use concrete. So the walk will be not a traditional concrete walk, and the area down inside the classroom area will just be a traditional concrete. We'll still have some benches with some stone material out there, but we've eliminated a lot of that quartzite material that the feedback was that was pretty expensive material. We've reduced very minor fencing at the stadium. I wish I should have had a plan here to show you, but if you think about the plan, think about the home bleachers. At the end of that home bleacher headed towards 86, where like the shot put and the long jump were, we had a short section of fencing that kind of separated spectators from athletes that were participating in either the shot put or the long jump. That short section of fencing is the savings that we've identified. We're keeping all the other double fencing, so the idea is that you still have to buy a ticket to get inside the stadium space, We've maintained all the other fencing that separates the spectators from the athletes everywhere else. It's just that short section from basically the south end of the home bleachers that comes around to the south end of the visitor bleachers. That section is fenced up. Visitor bleachers, we had a design in the project that basically took your current home bleacher capacity. I always get these numbers wrong. I'm sure Tom will correct me when I get them wrong. But I think we were at about 1,500, 1,600 seat, 1,800, something like that in the current design. That's what your current home bleachers are. We've decided to back that down to about 1,000 seat visitor bleacher. Sounds like I'm right. So about 1,000 seat bleacher, which will help reduce a number of things. That visitor bleacher system that we were putting in the project was what's called a steel I-beam frame structure. It's a nice structure. It allows you storage underneath, but it's an expensive structure. So what we're going to do is more like what your current visitor bleacher system is, which is just an aluminum with cross bracing. You don't get a lot of storage under there, but it's definitely more cost effective to do a bleacher system that way. So we had savings in the bleacher system, as well as the bleacher pad itself can reduce in size a little bit. And the footings, believe it or not, get significantly reduced because being aluminum versus steel, it's significantly lighter, so foundation requirements are maybe even non-existent. It might be able to just sit on a thick concrete slab, so we can completely eliminate the foundations. Change the scoreboard foundation system, so we're not changing the scoreboard. Well, the feedback we got was the scoreboard we currently have in is with two columns. Basically, think of the scoreboard, you've got a column on each side. Those columns, because of the size of that scoreboard, was creating footers that were in an 8-foot diameter, somewhere in that ballpark. So big, right? So it had to be poured, it was deep, a lot of concrete. The feedback we've gotten is just by adding a third post in the center of that scoreboard, the added cost of that steel is small compared to the savings in the boring. Because once you get over a 4-foot diameter boring, it's a special rig that the contractors have to bring out. So the equipment cost goes up, the labor cost goes up, the operator cost goes up. So if we can keep those borings to a more manageable size where they can use their standard equipment, the extra piece of steel is easily offset by the savings in the equipment and the manpower. So it's a minor change in our mind aesthetically. It actually gives you a couple of opportunities to kind of hang some stuff underneath those. Right now, that spacing was like about 16 feet. The scoreboard itself is about 20 feet wide or something like that. So now you'll be able to have those columns on about 8-foot spacing. So if we want to add some other signage between them, it's easy enough to add it below the scoreboard. And again here, abandoned existing utilities. There's utilities out there underneath in the field that, again, if we need to take them out, so the new ones in, obviously we're going to take them out. But if we can leave them in place and abandon them, we're going to. So all of those slides got us to about a $2.8 million savings. This one is just a reminder. This was one that we had actually, at that special board meeting when we talked about almost being able to award the contract. This is the future phases. So the ones that we kind of either just started design on in the case of the middle school and intermediate school, and then the other elementary schools. We've talked about these before. So boiler replacement, and I didn't put the dollar values here again, but we deleted the Center Street boiler replacement and the Gardner Road roof portion of roof replacement. The site improvements were reductions. Those were not deletions, if you recall. We left a few $100,000 at least at Big Flats and Bridge Road, and at the bus garage we still left. I think it was about $750,000 or something like that. It was originally, that site work was so the bus garage we kept $1 million still for site work. I think originally that was about a $2 million site package in the bus garage, so we've maintained half of that. And then the middle school, intermediate school, locker room, and gymnasium renovations. So for total savings here on this slide of about $6.3 million.
So now to bring this all back together, well, there's one more here, financial appropriation. This is basically other ways to free up some spending or some funding. So next year's annual project was geared towards HVAC improvements at the high school. And that $1 million is gonna offset some of the needs we'd have to do, in the last bid that was put out. Also, phase 1 and phase 1 incidental and construction, had some funds that weren't needed to complete that scope. So that those are kind of leftover funds from that phase that can be brought forward. The camera coaster that comes out of annual budget that buying cameras for the high school project that can be installed on the project, but the cameras can be purchased another way. And then the NYSERDA rebate can offset some of the Siemens costs to do the control work. So that adds up to 1.975. Now bringing that all back together, as a reminder, original budget, 47 million, the 57 total cost of everything that was likened to do, with the alternates and the scope of work as described, brought us at 9.5 over. Now with value engineering of 2.8, future scope reduction of 6.3, and financial appropriation of just under 2. You add that all up and we're under the proposed budget by 1.5. So the key thing with that is we didn't want to get that to 0. We wanted to make sure there was some extra capacity there with some of the unknowns you run into on bid day. And also that allows you to add something back in. And we didn't want to make that assumption of what would be a priority until that number was actually known. Because who knows, that number could be 1 million, it could be 3 million after bid day. We believe you'll have funds to restore some of those things that were reduced back. Largely it would be the future scope reduction is where we'd be looking. Restoring either roof replacement or a boiler replacement or some site work, something like that. And that would be a conversation for after we open the bids next time around. So what happened with schedule? Okay, so what we have in this top area is what was originally planned, top left there. So we have the SED submission, the bid period, the award of the contract, and then the construction started. The column to the right, the first bid, identified what actually happened. So you can see the SED submission review period took an extra 20 weeks from what was originally planned. That total of 20 weeks, an extra 6 weeks from what was originally planned. The bid period was remained pretty much the same. The awarded contract, we were looking for more time to de-scope the low bidders before, and that got really squeezed down to a week. And you can see what the construction schedule was ending up to be. Still being complete in 2021 at that time, but waited to the fall instead of being done as a summer. Now, the second bid, the lower right column, is really what I want to focus on right here, is what is the planned bid period. We're looking at going out to bid at the end of August, 8/28, planning a 6-week period. We're going to put it out for 5 weeks with time in the schedule to allow for an extension if it's deemed necessary or request from contractors to do so. Okay, so we're planning that longer period right in. 2-week de-scope and award period, which is important. It's a large project. We want to make sure the low bidders are have everything incorporated and to spec. And then the construction period basically takes us out to the summer of 22. So instead of the fall of 21, as we were looking at before, it's going to go to the summer of 22 to achieve anything. And that everything. And that's largely to keep your building occupiable and separation between construction and students. We can only do a part of the building at a time, and that leads to that duration. Now we can see how that shakes out in brain. What that looks like.
So this map is going to look very familiar to you guys. Really, the upper right corner, the legend up here, is really the only thing that's changed. Our phasing due to our limitations with swing spacing, which is really driving the length of our project here. We felt comfortable, we heard feedback from contractors that our roadmap to build this project was actually very appropriate timeline-wise. So we tried not to change too much, but obviously with the overbid and over budget on the first bid, having to go out and go back to the drawing board to go through these BD processes, the timelines have changed. So right now, what we are planning to do is, as Jeff just showed you, awarded contracts in mid to late, I think it's the 23rd of October, we're going to be giving a recommendation to award. At that point, we leave a 4 or 5 week time period for contractors to get paperwork submitted, get contracts executed, and come to the site to start mobilizing and doing work. Right now, we're projecting that 4 to 5 week period after awarding contracts to be right after Thanksgiving, November 21st, in which we will begin working on the library addition. So this courtyard will be shut down around Thanksgiving, as well as begin work in the cafeteria. There will be temporary walls put up separating the core. We do have to maintain corridors through here, exiting for all the auditorium areas and gymnasiums and whatnot. But the idea would be those two areas would begin construction in November of 19. At the same time as that, we would also begin putting up site fencing, doing our stormwater pollution prevention plan, and getting any site work going that we could at that time. Over the winter, site work wise, we would be demolishing the existing outbuildings out there and kind of setting the stage so when winter is over, the ground thaws out, we can hit the ground running hard on the stadium. So that kind of wraps up the into Christmas break. Over Christmas break, we're then going to take over the first and second floor of this green area, which we call Zone 4 up here, Science West. We can only take over half of that wing as we had previously because of the number of rooms we need to take over and maintain the classroom thing back now. That would begin over Christmas break and continue through the summer. So basically at this point in time, we go from there to summer working on the green area, the blue and red, which is your library addition, and the cafeteria renovations. And those go through the summer, and our goal is to turn all those areas over in September when the kids come back to school. At the same time as that, once that summer starts, we are aiming to begin our rink demolition and addition, which requires us that we have to have this corridor open by the time they come back to school. We also take over, I believe it is first floor E and G. We do this over the summer, this little off-green area here, and turn that back over when the kids come back to school as well. That's a summer project. So when the kids come back to school in 2020, what we are working on at that point is just this link addition, and we begin that summer to take over this office area as well. So you gotta think libraries turned over, cafeterias turned over, the green science areas are turned over, as well as those 3 classrooms we're showing renovating there. At this point, we're kind of working on the old library, turning into the main office, and the link. As we progress through that school year, when the main office gets completed, we are going to move your existing main office up to your new main office and begin the FACS, Family and Consumer Science construction. Again, this will be happening during the school year. That move is currently planned for between semesters, so in January. As we continue through the year there, we get closer to summer and we're actually going to do the boiler room renovations. That has to hold off a few summers, so all these areas that we're not touching until later in the project still function for heat for the winter. In the summer of 21, we work on these classrooms here. We work on the business wing renovations here and here, and we will still be working on FACS at that time as By the time they come back to school, you can plan on everything being turned over except for the business wing here and here. And we will begin first and second floor renovations of area G, which is this brown area, which would be, we'll begin in the summer, but we'd be working second shift, get the corridor back open, and maintain egress for all the students. Once all of that turns back over, we're finally able to take over our Science Wing East, which actually has the most classrooms that we're displacing, so unfortunately we have to leave that for last, which is this brown area down here. I think most of you will know that the sequencing of how this is built hasn't really changed much. We've kind of just shifted it out. And before I forget to fall back to the site, we are looking at turning that stadium over. The stadium begins in the fall/winter of this year, goes through till the next school year, and we're hoping to have it pretty well wrapped up by then, by September of 2020. But there are some very weather sensitive aspects of putting the track down, turf, that potentially is going to roll over into the spring. We may not have that field until the summer or fall of 21. I think we talked about that in our last board meeting together. But, I know it's a lot, kind of just running through it. Are there any questions on the overall sequencing, scheduling, new schedule at this point?
That's our last slide. So I guess if there's any questions about any of the process or how we're moving forward, you can take that into. Yes.
So, if this goes out, the library, should that be 8/31/20? And that
Which one, if you look?
library.
Yes. Zone 2, you're right, the date's on the right, that 8/31 says 8/31.
Just keep it that.
We'll have to fix that to 20, thank you.
We found a time machine.
Jeff,
Yes.
the stadium itself, I think on one of the early slides you had the alternate, I think was the lights, or maybe different lights. Are lights in the base bid at this point in the stadium, or is that an alternate?
You want me to answer that?
Yep.
Yeah, so, all of your stadium lighting is, absolutely base bid. What that is specifically is, at the far end of the field, the south end of the field, we added, I think, actually just one pole, that shoots lights out to that long jump, and so to be able to hold a track and field, section 4 meet, you have to be able to provide light to all of those spaces. So all that is the lights that shoot out to the long jump headed towards 86 and the shot put area. Everything else, the big main poles, there's 4 main poles in the stadium, that's in the base bid, yeah.
So if I understand it correctly, I think ultimately with all the value engineering, come in about $1.5 million under the top line number from the first bid cycle.
Correct.
And then went through the different elements that I think impacted that bid, that made it 57.
Right.
You know, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but with the hindsight of seeing those factors and planning for now what we're going to do in the fall, to what degree, how would you quantify the risk that even that $1.5 million, for example, could not be enough of a cushion? How concerned should we be about the bids coming in and having a similar issue in this fall cycle?
Right. So, we'll let Brian answer that, but one part of it that I'd say is there's also $1 million worth of alternates that you wouldn't have to accept to move forward. So that includes the 1.5 that's under, plus there's $1 million of alternates you're gonna bid, that you're gonna accept. The money's there. If the money's not there, then those alternates.
So you're saying if the alternates were to come out, then you have about 2.5.
Yeah. Now, as far as the condition of living environment,
Yeah, so we have pretty much since April been calling people who bid on the job, people who did not bid on the job, not just prime contractors, but also subcontractors, Toronto installer, people that are under the prime contractors, to try to I guess, get ahead of the game and get a beat for why they didn't bid the first time and why they liked the second time. We heard astounding feedback that the time of bid was just that time. Jeff had earlier the number of projects that bid over the 18-19 year. The contractors really all looked for this summer. And I know a lot of, it's sad to think that they look at it that way, but they just didn't have time to bid on it, some of them. Some of them just took half look at it through bigger numbers. Feedback we're getting from contractors through making these phone calls, our company, Hard Bid Jobs, we have relationships with a lot of these guys, so there's really no benefit in them to lie at us, but we're hearing that September, October, November is going to be a much better time for them. They'll get through the busy summer that they already have backlog of work for, and we're doing everything we can to continue to solicit. The general feedback we're getting is much more positive in a September, October than we were getting we were always looking to do in January, and once we got into mid-late January, we're calling these guys saying, hey, hold out, we do have the project coming. Just kept getting grimmer and grimmer. But we are here getting them through the summer should produce better bid results, more competitive bids. Less bid packages where there is a single front bidder. We're also reevaluating how the bid packages are bid. We have a masonry package that only had one bidder. We're looking at potentially rolling that into the general trades package, which makes that more attractive for some companies. The steel contract underneath this GC was so big, we're potentially looking at pulling that out and doing its own contract. We're really trying to feed off of feedback we're getting from these contractors to hopefully put ourselves in the best position to have the most competitive bids here in the fall.
Okay, I think that's very helpful. So it sounds like, don't let me put words in your mouth, but if all that plays out as you're seeing, in your opinion, you see it as a low risk that we have a similar occurrence.
Yeah, nothing's guaranteed in this industry right now. Like we talked about how volatile it is, but the feedback we're getting from bidders and subcontractors that would be providing bids is a lot more positive right now than it was in March, April time. It was really kind of cutthroat out there. I mean, people were not looking for work like that. So,
And I'd add one thing, there's pressure to expect a better end result, right? And maybe not find as many savings as we found here, or ways to pay for the job. We did not account for any better bid results.
Right, you went on, assuming the bid result was the same as before,
Yeah.
you come out $1.5 million ahead, so.
So we didn't succumb to those pressures to expect better bid results. We said, okay, this is what it is, and let's plan for that, what we believe was worst case scenario.
And you don't see anything that would suggest a worse bid result, you know, the environment, anything is.
I don't think so.
However, we did have a conversation today, you were part of the project, Jeff, that you always have to plan for that, of course, as well. What would your plan if that unfortunate came?
It's the $2.5 million that we have as a buffer right now.
But if it went beyond that, if it went that, we would have to look at that point. And at that point, you have to decide a scope change. I do believe our discussion of scope change will most likely be considered the link. We have to bet that more. But because we're creating 6 classrooms here, the link adds 6 classrooms until the next project that can be captured at a different time. It's one of the thoughts that they have. But that way you maintain the vast majority of the scope. Our hope is that we don't ever have to.
We really hope we're in a situation where we see much more competitive bids, and that money that we show coming out of future scopes, goes right back into future scopes. It's really what we're hoping for this time.
So I have 2 questions. One is forward in phase 2 and phase 3. I'm hearing one thing that to me is, and I don't know that it's done in the trades, but you talked to everybody and found the whole way to cost save. Why wouldn't we do that in advance in phase 2 and phase 3 so we knew where we were way out of line in our aspirations for what we want? So we don't relive this in phase 2 and 3.
You mean like in another capital project down the road?
Right, correct.
Like this end of the building and then.
Correct. And then secondly, is there anything to be critical of the board? Like we said things that force you to go places where your best instincts were no and you were not willing to push back against us? I mean, do we hold any blame, not blame, but should we evaluate ourselves differently?
Okay, good questions, tough questions. On your second question, I don't believe so. I mean, I think you've been very helpful in understanding and listening, and we're trying to bring things. Obviously, we're all a little bit optimistic, and maybe we should have been. But this is unprecedented. What happened this last year is just so unique to the industry. We've all been doing this for over 20 years in the school market, in this region, and this is the activity that occurred this last year is unlike anyone has ever seen. So we're in a unique situation, and there's some things with the alternates, wanting to have some of those alternates that are bringing that 9 million number to 9 million instead of 7 million. But I get that. You want to get as much as you can. But you've been willing to allow us to maintain them as alternates. So if you told us no, they got to be base bid, then I'd say, yeah, maybe you're pushing us in a direction we wouldn't. Okay. Your first question, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll play off of what Jeff just said a little bit. Generally, we see historically our process of a SD, schematic design estimate, then a DD estimate, design development estimate, and then a CD estimate, construction document estimate. That's the 3 phases we do as we develop these projects. We have never really seen something come so far off from our process. It's what Jeff just said is really true. We've never seen it this far off. Doing a lot of exercises, working with people who did provide bids, both with subcontractors and primes. In the aftermath is a lot easier than doing it ahead of time because we put an estimate together. Sometimes we rely on a steel contractor to provide a little input, but they're always hesitant to give hard factors and really sharpen the pencils and tell us the number. We utilize them to try to make sure that we're within the right realm, but we don't always get that clear definitive answer. Post-bid, it's always easy to reach out to them and go through. They're generally more than willing to help at all times, and I really think it's a tribute to the environment we're in right now. We had a lot of single bidders that knew they were the only bidders, and they checked their prices up. I think hopefully going forward, you see that our process can be trusted. It's worked for years with Hunt and with other engineering firms, and I think that this was just a really bad time.
If I can add for the board, with their review that they completed for our team, one of the important pieces of general construction industry challenges, because they key statement is there is an unprecedented number of construction projects underway in our region, considering the previous 20 years. Their net result is the major projects from regular to repeat purchases of construction services are seeing a dearth of bidders and a lack of available resources in both construction workers and management personnel. This would include all trades from masonry, steel, glass, glazing, roofing, carpeting, electrical, mechanical, painting to estimated superintendent project manager. The long and short of all this is that the limited manpower across the industry, coupled dealt with spike in demand for construction services as a result of lack of bids. They go on to say, that roughly over the past year, just in our region, which is the central New York region, $2.5 billion of construction is underway or being bid during the time that we went out. And then even Upstate Medical Center, which builds every year, they had to actually pull away a $70 million expansion project that was needed because they had no bidders. So that's sort of the environment that as they went through, and talking to their contractors and everything. And that's from Welland, so.
Yeah, and that project he's referring to, it shocked me. I believe that's a private job, and we were soliciting site contractors for it. We solicited over 40 site contractors and couldn't find a single contractor that would take the job because they just didn't have the manpower capability, and it was too late in the season.
So Jeff, because you're one of the major players here, we had a discussion today. What are the prospects of school capital construction? Because like Elmira's going through projects now, next year they would be finished. Could you sort of review that for the board? What you know?
Yeah, so this year under construction, most of your neighboring districts have projects underway. Newfield, Elmira, Corning is finishing up some projects, Bath, Cornell, Boca, Bradford, all these schools in your neighborhood have projects underway or have been, previously this year and contracts in place. All of that work is going to be, I say all of it, majority of that work is going to be completed after the end of the summer. And they don't have that much more work to put out on the street after. They're completing the referendums, they're planning their next referendum. So that opens up some capacity for sure, moving forward.
And this is an attractive job for backlogs. Contractors that do school work can see 3 summits that we visit. The local area,